That's funny.
But-
So what is your guys' favorite memory? Just like one thing that like was really badass that you will just always remember from playing
With the game or
yeah,
in
with the
the
game. With the game. You
I
did
don't
something really cool and then just like, holy crap, this was awesome. I'm gonna remember this forever.
That's lost him a lot.
Well, I'll tell you
Um,
mine. I'll tell you mine real quick while you guys think about it. And so talking about going way back to when we were talking about the beginning about taking notes and stuff. Remember I said throwing axes. And I wrote that on my board to remember my throwing axes with Gimli and my dwarves. Well, there was a game I played against Gundabad. And my opponent had 3 Gundabad ogres. You know, the guys that move 8 inches, can run through stuff.
Yeah.
Well, they're only defense 5. So strength 3 throwing axes wound them on 5s. So I had a turn, and the funny thing is I'd actually forgotten to use my throwing axes. This is the second round of an event. I forgot to use my stupid throwing axes in the first round. So that's when I wrote throwing axes. And I went into that game, and in a 2-turn phase, I walked up with Gimli to a ogre who I wounded the turn before, and he was down to 1 wound, and Gimli walks up with his throwing axe and goes, "Hey, you're an ogre? This is my throwing axe." Thronk! Right in his face and killed that ogre. I therefore finished my movement into a second ogre, and Gimli actually did something good for me, and 1 turn killed an ogre. So I got 2 ogre kills in 1 turn with Gimli. That is
That's
my
amazing.
greatest memory ever.
I would have to say, like, the best one for me happened in my first tournament. I was actually going up against Jerry, going up against Rohan again, and I brought Threadwell on his elk, but I also brought his circlet. And
Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
Jerry charged with his Rohan at my spear front line, and I think it's
This is before this is before we knew about the FAQ change on the range.
yeah,
right?
before it got changed.
Yeah.
And
for the Nature's Wrath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And he charged in his Rohirrim, and I charged Thranduil at him by himself because Thranduil was just tanking the entire game for me, and it dismounted his entire cavalry charged with
I think
Thranduil.
you knocked. It was a 6-inch range, so I think you dismounted like 12 guys.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous like that, and they all went prone, and then elves just jumped on top of everybody.
Jerry hates fighting you because you've done that twice now, and the 2 times you fought him, you have left him speechless by one of your moves.
Yeah. Because I took out his siege equipment last tournament and just wrecked his whole cavalry charge.
You dropped the Watcher on his Gondor Trebuchet last event,
And bolt thrower.
and the first event you just wave of energy knocked down all of his cav.
Yeah.
That's funny you should say that. Joe had that same thing happen to him when he went to an event up in Pennsylvania with the Nature's Wrath as well. And the same thing happened to him against elves. Not only did it happen once, it happened twice in the same event.
But Jerry brought that whole game back because after that, 2 turns later, when he got everybody standing back up, he took out 14 Palace Guard in a single turn with wounds.
How?
With this,
He rolled like a god.
he rolled
Okay.
nothing
Yeah,
but
okay, that makes
5 and
sense.
6s.
I'll just say my event or my round had ended before theirs did. So when I did this, I went over and sat on their table, and I arrived right as that fighting round happened. I can promise you that he just rolled amazing.
That's
Nothing
awesome.
but 6s and 5s.
That's awesome.
My Palace Guard fell away, and that's why when the Battle of the Pelennor Fields happened, I wanted a rematch against Jerry, and I lost it in the last round there. It was like he got me again at the moment's notice.
See, Jerry's your rival. You're my rival.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So that sealed it for me. After that, I was hooked on the game and just wanted to build the best army I could to take out Jerry.
Jerry's coming to Ringo South, and I think he's also going to a Wolves and Shattered Shields. So you might have a chance twice to get your rematch on him.
I'm gonna try.
I know you also want to rematch Young because you want to show him your Mario this time.
Yeah. At least show
Sadly,
it
he
off.
wasn't able to make it last event.
Well,
So
he's
he
coming.
should be.
He's coming to Ringo South. I'm not sure if he's coming to of Wolf and Shattered Shields.
Mhm.
I'll say my favorite moment. It wasn't a moment per se, like it wasn't good for me or anything like that. It was at the Dry Falls event,
Mhm.
and I went up against a conned army that was like 5 chariots,
Oh
I
God.
remember this.
and it didn't go well for me. I'll say that, but it was the first. It was the second round, and it was. Can't remember where we had an object on 2 different corners.
They
You had
had
to get it and then get it off your opponent.
Oh yeah. We call that the capture the flag one. Yeah.
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 And I had priority to place my guys, and I had Iron Hills, so I'm like, well, I looked at the map, and there's 2 rocks right in the center of the map. I'm like, oh look, I can build a nice little shield wall right in that little. I didn't know what chariots were at the time. Was not a smart idea for me.
Yeah.
But I just put like most of my guys in a line that took up the center of the board, and I had my ballista back by the object. And I'm like, okay, I got my shield wall. Then he just placed his chariots down, and I'm like, well, I wonder what this is going to be like. It did not go well. Oh look, I could just plow right through you.
Yeah.
But it was a learning experience. It was fun because I learned. It was one of those first times I learned to adapt because he hit me in the line, and then I realized, oh crap, what am I gonna do? I was able to pull archers back and start shooting the couple horsemen he had that were trying to flank and get the object. So I pulled my crossbows back, and then I just started sharpshooting his guys off their horses, and it I brought the game to where it could have ended a lot sooner, but I was able to hold out, and it was probably one of my more favorite moments.
And after that, you wanted the Iron Hills chariot.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of the chariot because, like, oh look, I now know what that is, and it was also back to the community thing. Like, it was one thing he pointed out to me. I didn't know about the FAQ.
Mhm.
And neither did you when we were building our armies and everything. I didn't realize that the ballista was more points than it should have been.
Yeah. And they tweaked it.
Because I had based it off of the rule book. I had no idea with the FAQ where it went up in price.
Right.
And he when I showed him my list, he goes, "This is wrong." And we went to Chad, who was the event coordinator, and he had missed it as well. And we're like, well, let's do a compromise. We'll take a couple dwarves out for the point value, just to fix it. And it's just one of those things where, it was very sportsmanly of him to be like, make a big deal of it. It's like, hey, how can we adjust this real quick?
That's good to do.
Good community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. That was Chad's first time running an event, and I will say he did not make it easy on himself because a escalation event, I think there are 24 people there. So all 24 people are submitting 4 lists. So he's got to check 96 lists.
Yeah.
And I think he had the submission like a week before the event. So that's less than a week to get 96 lists checked. I'll tell you. So there are 26 people that came to Great Battle of Carolinas in February. And I had to check 26 lists. And there were 3 or 4 folks that had some common errors in them, or 3 or 4 folks where when they submitted a list, they'd be like a point or two shy. It was a 1,000-point event. So they'd be at like 998. So I'd look at their list and I'd send them stuff back like, hey, man, you're 2 points under here. And they'd be like, yeah, I know. I'd be like, you could just add spears to these guys. And they'd be like, well, I don't have the models, so I don't want to do that. And I'd be like, you can do it. It's not a WYSIWYG event. Just mark their base with some Sharpie or something and let your opponent know what they are. And if you have to, swap them out when another model dies. That way you don't have to worry about remembering it throughout the event. So something like that is, it doesn't seem like it takes a lot of time, but it definitely takes a lot of time. So
Yeah, I remember
having to
you
check
did that with
96 ones was ugh.
you did that with me because I brought Iron Hills with Army of Thror and I had a banner. I think I was at like 998, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
And you were like, "Well, why don't you just throw a spear on the banner?"
Yeah.
Which I've actually used that advice in my current list for Erebor, where I was sitting here like I have 5 points. Where can I? Just throw a spear on the banner.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I mean, you can take 3 warrior weapons with a model before they're considered burdened. So, I mean, whenever I make my lists, the first thing I give to my banner bearer is a shield. And then I go and make the rest of my list. And if I have the points to do so at the end, just like you, I'll go ahead and give my banner bearer a spear. If they can take one, obviously, because not every banner can carry a spear.
But with the banner having a spear too, he stays in a tighter group formation, I've found, and it makes it a heck of a lot harder for him to be sniped out.
Well, yeah, he has that, and it also helps him with that 3-inch bubble because I have my Iron Hills laid out right now in front of us, but like as you see, I have my banner right behind Dane with 3 guys on either side of Dane with spear support. So I got 6 guys on either side of Dane. That 3-inch bubble can now touch the entire thing. Where if he was an inch back, I wouldn't be able to touch that front guy on the far ends.
Well, not just that, my goblin archers are gonna have a heck of a time trying to shoot him my trolls.
You gotta shoot through Dane to get to him.
Exactly, and that's just not gonna happen.
Yeah. So I mean that's another thing too is and since you have him with a spear, you're going to have him in combat. So if you were to ungodly lose, you back away, you stay in contact. So if he gets killed, you have a guy to instantly transfer it over to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just little things like that you don't think about it, but when you're checking lists, they can sometimes get missed. So
Richie learned the value of a banner with the Balrog Legendary Legion. Because you get a drum that's a map wide banner.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's free rerolls for all your goblins.
And honestly, when it came to the drum and every other army composition, I couldn't justify it because for 75 points, that's a dweller in the dark.
Yeah.
Or a cave troll without a hammer.
Or a cave troll. And my goblins, the way I've played them, were always there to hold the line and just try not to die. They're not meant to wound anything. But with the Legendary Legion, because it's map wide, I can just wrap around behind people and have 3-4 goblins on every model, and then all of a sudden these goblins have hitting power.
Yep.
So I had to really adjust my playstyle, but with that, the drum performed phenomenally.
Well, and you get backstabbers too, isn't that the warrior bonus?
Yeah, you get the
+1
+1 to your fight value.
Yeah.
Well, is it fight value? I thought they got +1 to wound or something like that.
No, you're thinking of prowlers. Prowlers.
Okay. But +1 to your fight value, that's not bad because then you're still going to be able to.
It brings you up to a 3, so you're about average with everyone.
Yeah,
The Prowlers and the Cave Drakes are the only ones out of the Warrior Army battle list that I don't have yet. And I'm trying to get my hands on those Prowlers, but they are hard to find.
Oh, I think they're an OP model right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Black Shields.
Well, Black Shields
now dragons are now out of print.
Are they really?
Yep.
Oh.
I'm kind of almost expecting Gundabad Black Shields to be removed from the game because of the fact that they came out before Gundabad itself was a thing. And I kind of hope that doesn't happen because I have a boatload of Gundabad Black or Moria Black Shields. Yeah, they're Gundabad Black Shields.
I love their hatred for dwarves too, especially fighting against Josh. They are just great. They are my cup of tea.
Yeah, you get they don't seem like much. They get like 7 points to 5. So you're like, what's really it goes up, their defense only goes up by 1.
Yeah.
So it's like, really, what is the point value? The point value is that ability of like, oh look, I get +1 to wound against dwarves.
Right.
And when you fight somebody that is dwarf and dwarf and dwarf again, that hatred of dwarf comes in handy.
It manifests your real life hatred into the game.
Pretty much.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So, what else do I have here? So what's your least favorite moment? Do you have like a least favorite game that happened or something like that?
Don't gesture to me. You can't do that.
Just a moment where like, yeah, everything's gonna go right, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh shit, the wheels just fell off because I rolled 14 dice and got a 3 high.
From the last event alone? Question mark? I can name at least 3 moments for the last one. There was probably the last event. Had high hopes. It did not go well for me. It wasn't like, oh wow, I'm so upset about it, but it was just like, wow, okay, that's what this is gonna be. Cool.
I had one. So I was playing. We talked about the Chariot a few times now. I played with the the Death Star Chariot, the one that's got the Champions of Erebor on it.
Oh yeah,
okay.
That's like 500 points or something
500
like that.
points, yeah, but it's got Bal and Dwal and Feely Keely. So I was in a situation where I was playing against Joe, and he was playing Mordor, and I was charging in against who was it? I think he had charged. No, I had charged, and I failed to wound. This is that love-hate relationship too with the freaking Chariot. I charged in against 2 Morannon orcs. Slotted the first one, easy peasy. I think I rolled because their defense 6, strength 6 hits. You need 4s to wound. So I completely slaughtered it. The second one I rolled a 2 high on 3 dice. I was like, well, guess I'm fighting one guy. And Joe went ahead and ended up charging. No, that's what it is. It was 1 Morannon orc and Gothmog. So I killed the Morannon orc and did 0 wounds to Gothmog, although Gothmog was pretty close to dying at that point. And I was hoping to just run him over and that'll be it. So I didn't run him over. Joe has his 3 dice with Gothmog, and I think he put a couple more supports in. So he had like, we'll say 5 or 6 dice total. He throws his 5 or 6 dice. He rolls a 4 high. Well, I have 4 dice with Dwalin because I decided to go with the 2 axes because why not? Let's go with 4 dice. I had. What's that?
Get those extra dice in.
Oh, yeah, totally. I had 4 dice with Feely and Keely combined. And then I had I think 3 or 4 dice just charging straight up because of the attacks coming from the Chariot itself. So I had 12 dice all said and done. I just needed a single 4 because Dwalin's fight value 6, so I'm going to win if I roll a 4. I throw my 12 dice. I roll 2 3s, 2 2s, and the rest are 1s. And I'm out of might. And I lose the fight. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
that
rough.
That was literally one of those moments where it was just like, I quit, you win. You just want to take a model and chuck it across the room because it's like, really? I threw this many dice? What are the odds of getting 2 3s, 2 2s, and a shitload of 1s? But hey, I rolled it. And then not only that, he proceeded to insult to injury and actually wounded and killed one of the dwarfs on the Chariot.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that was my worst experience, I would say. And that goes back to that love-hate relationship with the stupid Chariot.
I found that the more points you put into a single model, the more that can go wrong with it.
Yes.
But the more that can go right with it too. So it's really just a gamble because at the end of the day, it is a dice game.
Correct. I completely agree.
It's like Basaron being 400 points. If you're an 800-point match, that's half your army right there in one model.
Yeah.
He's got to pay for himself.
He's got to do a lot of work. That's the thing with that's why I don't I don't really take the chariot unless it's 800 points or greater. So we did a 850 point like local event where like it was just Carolina folks playing to get back into the swing of things. You know, as we were right before the Dry Falls Auroros and stuff like that. And I was hoping to play, but I built an 850 Iron Hills list because I still haven't played Iron Hills at an event. And I included the chariot with the captain, a ballista, Dane, and like I think 2 goat riders, and then the rest were just guys with shields and spears. And I was really hoping to play it to try it out because in practice games, I mean, my last practice game with it right before the event was me running over those 12 dwarfs I talked about back at the beginning of this, conversation.
Yeah.
And I was really hyped, and then one guy dropped out, and so I was the swing guy since I was the TO. I mean, it was a little local event. I think we had 8 guys show up. So if he had shown up, it would have been 9. So I would play it, and it would have been 10. But it was kind of disappointing because that's it. But that's the thing, like you said, Richie, is like the more points you put into something, the more it's got to do for you. So I kind of like having those big, heavy hitters like a Dane, like a Prince Imrahil, because fiefdoms are my favorite army.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, if you've got a lot of like cheap 60, 75 point models between spiders and, cave trolls and dwellers in the dark, you don't mind sacrificing a couple of those to draw your opponent's like 160 point Dane away and then go use 2 or 3 of your little 60, 75 point models to go completely wreck the area where he was at.
Exactly, because I will sacrifice goblins hand over fist. I'll sacrifice a cave troll if I've got to, if it means taking out a 100+ point model, and then trying to shift the battle away from wherever those models I sacrificed were. That way, you've got to take time getting back over, and by that time, typically you can win a side and break the middle. But probably the biggest letdown as far as me rolling has to be that charge in the water in the Shire where I did roll 14 dice and 13 of them were 3 and under.
That's
I think
crazy.
you got new dice after that.
I did. I bought new dice.
I have so many dice, it's not even funny. I have bought every single G-Dub dice, and those G-Dub dice will either roll really hot for me or ice freaking cold. I've got like 3 or 4 different Chessex sets of dice. Every time I go to an event in like a local group like Nashville or DCHL or wherever in Pennsylvania, and they're selling or giving away their dice, I'm like, yeah, more dice. Maybe I can roll good. And then I'll roll them and get like 2 highs. Be like, yep, not these dice apparently. So I bought the new Fateborn dice.
We've been making jokes for years that we're just like dice goblins. We've got a horde already, but there's something new and shiny. We got to pick it up.
There you go.
I got my main set is I have the 8 dice of the One Ring from GW.
Mm-hmm.
I have the 3 we got from Dry Falls,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I got 2 from this last event we were at. So those are my main dice. I always just, even when they roll bad, I'm like, please do better. Please.
The One Ring dice he has are amazing. Like, I don't know why, but when he rolls them against me, he doesn't roll below a 4. Anybody else, though, he's struggling with them.
Well, there you go. They're balancing out their odds, as some folks say. So
They just don't like
that. Yeah.
So y'all working on any new armies or anything in particular? I think, Josh, you said you're looking at doing a new Erebor with the new dwarves that are coming out.
Yeah. I actually just bought. Well, when the models were announced, I was like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and buy a pack of 12 warriors, so I can convert them to swords, which I almost done with. I need 2 more to do. I went ahead and got a captain with spear and the banner that comes with him.
Okay.
Because my original Iron Hills army, I had the captain with the Matic. Right. And I like using the Matics. As a whole, they are not usually liked because they're lower defense. They lose the shield and all that. Being new to the game, I didn't really think about it when I first did it, but I still have.
You get a lot of hitting power with them with that Matic because they're strength 5,
I think. They can piercing strike with the Matic, which ups their strength.
Okay, so they're tier 4 base? That's weird.
Yeah, they're just base Iron Hills dwarves. They just lose the shield for a Matic.
Wow, okay.
That was my original front line before I converted these swords because.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the Warriors. Sorry, I thought you were talking about a captain. My bad. Never mind.
Oh no, yeah, the Warriors.
Yeah, my bad.
Those were my original front line. I did have the captain, which I was fine with the captain. But the captain with a shield and spear gets shield wall.
Right.
So it's not that goes up to defense 9.
Yeah.
So he's really strong there.
Yeah, giving
Also,
up those shields for the Maddox, you lose that shield wall.
Yeah. The banner that comes with the captain with the spear is cooler looking too.
Yes, he is.
But I have I went ahead and bought another pack of those just to convert the swords, and I feel I already had over 1,000 points because I used I bought plenty to use for the Dry Falls event.
Yeah.
So I was comfortable with the amount I had. I just wanted a few tweaks. I have some Lothlorien I ordered, but they are out of stock right now, so I'll get that whenever they decide to ship it.
Yeah.
I with the stimulus packages that have been sent out and tax returns being so recent, I was able to get a lot of my debt down, and I had a lot of play money, more than I probably should have used. But I was able to complete quite a few of my lists. I have like 12 lists listed for me to do. I was able to finish my Army of Thorin Dale.
Nice.
In the undead.
Yeah, I got my Return of the King Legendary Legion. I still need some riders. I might get 2 or 3 riders of the dead.
Oh, Dunhara. Ugh, my bane.
I got my Army of the Last Alliance put together. Isengard, which I finally got the rest of those models in for my pure Uruk-hai army.
Nice.
That I haven't gotten to try yet.
I really want him to bring his Isengard to a tournament. He thinks it's not ready, but honestly, I'm more scared to go up against that than I am his dwarves at this point. He's been tweaking it forever.
I'm not comfortable with the pike formation yet. I need to better figure out how to protect my flanks before I'm comfortable using it, I think.
But
right, that makes sense.
The only armies I have left are Minas Tirith, Rohan, and Khazad-dûm. I think those are the only 3 I have left to do.
Nice. And of
I got
course, finish working on your board too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the board. The board will probably be the first project I finish.
So I have a question about that. Oh, sorry, Richie, you go ahead. Yeah, my bad.
You're good, man. So I've been toying with Goblin Town since the second tournament, but because I've invested so much into Moria, I'm wondering if I can just make a quote unquote Goblin Town like through Moria, because Moria is so diverse. Instead of having like the Goblin King, like throw the Watcher in there, and then throw in like 6 warbands of goblins, I still get a model count of like 79 with a heavy hitter, just like Goblin Town does.
Dang. Yeah.
But there's just something about having a character with blubbery mask going around smacking people with the that just makes your heart happy.
Well, if you need a Goblin King model, I have an extra one, and I will sell him to you dirt cheap because I do not need one. So let me know, and I will hook you up.
The main thing you need, I think, is some captains, but the fact that they don't come separate is the main part.
Well, the thing I would do, and the thing I've seen a lot of people do, is if they want to play Goblin Town, like you said, the captains are hard as heck to get because they did sell them separate, but I think they're out of print now. And the only way to really get one is to buy the Goblin King, which is ridiculous. But most folks either just paint a random goblin a different color or paint the base a different color so that you could tell who it was. I mean, I played a guy at Ringo South in 2019, and I was playing in that event, and he had Goblin Town, and he had like, I think it was 800 point event, so he had like 110 guys, and he had like 7 or 8 captains, and he just painted their bases different colors. So his base scheme all around was white, and then theirs were like blue and purple and red and green and yellow. That way he could keep track of not only where the captains were, but also their might, will, and fate points as well.
We discussed, that was one of the armies we discussed for your 1,000 points, and you were like,
I don't think I can move all these.
the fact that you could get 150, 153 was the model cap for that event?
150.
Yeah.
150.
150?
I think
So the
it's
fact that you
150.
could get 150 models and still have like a few points left over.
Yeah.
You
You
were
just
like-
got to take more captains.
And like say like every one of those is 150 inches of the board that you can control.
Yep.
It's terrifying to think of. I think we said you could do 3 lines and then have a little bit of a 4th line
Yeah.
across the entire board.
And the final list we came up with the Goblin Town for that event that I just didn't end up taking was we ended up with like 13 war bands, and we were just shy of the pop cap.
I think it was like
Yeah.
140 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But-
so I'm just looking. It was 135 was the model cap. There's actually a guy who
135.
played Goblin Town there, and he had like 15 war bands.
Oh yeah, the moment I saw you post that list at the event on the wall, and I saw there was a Goblin Town, like please no. I
Well,
had
you would be able to smash right through it. You just never actually get through it.
I had my army of my Iron Hills and army of Thror, so I think I had like a 55 model cap.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even the fact that I have 55, he still outnumbers me 2-1.
Plus,
It was terrifying.
Well, it's funny because like I said, I played the guy with Goblin Town, and he had 110 models, and then he also had, of course, the Goblin Scribe bringing guys in. And
Yeah.
I was playing a Gondor Rohan Fiefdom's Green Alliance. Green Alliance, because all 3 of those are green allies. And this
Yeah.
is before the current rule FAQ, where allies have to be at least led by a hero of fortitude. So what I would do is I had Imrahil as my main guy. He was my leader. Then I had Boromir of the White Tower with the banner. So I'm giving a +1 fight value to all Gondor warrior keyword models, which includes my fiefdoms models. And then I had Imrahil giving his +1 fight value to all the guys. So I had fight value 5 Knights of Dol Amroth running around, as well
Human
as was that?
human elves.
Yeah, pretty much. This is exactly what I had. And then I allied in Durnhelm, and she just had 6 Riders of Rohan. So I had 2 mounted Knights of Dol Amroth, and then 6 Rohan riders with Durnhelm. And Durnhelm and her riders were literally just my simple Glasshammer flanking force that had the ability to do some kiting with some shooting, but 3 points of might, and Durnhelm also has strike to take on some, medium tier heroes. And I actually broke him in that game. I killed, so he had 110 models, or 115 to start with. So the break point on that would be, what, 57? 56? Something
Yeah.
like that? Yeah, 58, because 115 divided by 2 is 57 and a half, so you got to round up. So I have to kill 58 guys. I killed 66 or 65, something like that.
Wow.
Well, his freaking scribe called in 35 dudes. Like, he was taking his courage test. You take the courage check, and then it's whatever you beat it by plus D3. So he would roll his 2 dice to do his courage check, and he'd roll 10, 12, 11. He'd be rolling stupidly high. So it's a courage 2 scribe. So if he's rolling 10 or 11, 12 every time, he's bringing in a base of 2, 3, or 4. And then he'd just roll D3. He'd roll 5, 6, 5, 6. And it's not like his dice were loaded or anything, because then we go into combat, he'd roll the same dice. He'd roll 1, 2, 3, 1, 2s, 3s. And I'd just be sitting there rolling, oh, you got a 3? Oh, I got a 3. Well, you're fight 2 guys, and I'm fight 4. I'm fight whatever. So I win, and then I kill you on a 4. So, I mean, I was smashing through his troops, but it didn't matter because he just kept bringing in more. So
Richie feels that way whenever my dwarves fight his goblins, and we go, all right, let's do this fight next. I roll and I get a 6. I'm like, oh, I win automatically. He goes, let me know when I can roll, okay?
It
Yeah,
is nice when you have that fight value advantage over an opponent.
but I found that if I have the higher fight value with like an elf or whatever up against his dwarf armies, elves have a hard time performing as far as wounds go.
Their
Yes.
strength.
Yeah.
Well, elves are very similar in cost to Iron Hills.
Mhm.
And the fact that they just, where they have, what their cost is in their fight value, whereas the dwarfs, their cost is in their high defense and their strength. So yeah, you can win every single fight. And that's the issue I have playing men, where I'm playing with like Gondor and fiefdoms. Like I love playing with Gondor and fiefdoms, don't get me wrong. But the thing that I have found is that I really have to like diversify my fiefdoms list and get Clansman and Lambdon in there that get the +1 to wound with their two-handed broadswords. And then Minas Tirith, I really have to get a good amount of knights in there so that way I can get the +1 to wound when they charge in with their lances. Otherwise, if you're just a strength 3, defense 6, defense 7 with shield wall army going up another defense 6, defense 7, defense 8 army, you're going to have an impossibly hard time to wound things. And I prefer good armies, which is why I hate the Dead of Dunharrow being defense 8.
Yeah, that's probably why I like the Iron Hills the best, is that they're fight 4, strength 4, defense 8 wall, and shield wall. It's like, okay, what are you going to do? Like, I can hit you. Most things I'm going to wound on a 6 instead of 6x4s.
Mhm.
And then my defense 8. All right, you have a strength 3. You have to hit me on a 6x4 to
Right.
even wound one of my base units.
Yep.
The easiest way I found about breaking up formations with high defense armies like that is meet them in the middle with your like low tier troops like your goblins or whatever, and then if you've got something that can do a hurl or a barge, if you can get a troll around the corner and just do a hurl, you can knock down 6, 7, 8 troops
Yep.
and then get that surround off if you get priority, and it goes
Surround and prone, so you get double dice.
yeah.
Yep. Well, and that's what happened to me against that Goblin Town guy. Is in the middle, because goblins can support each other. In the middle, I was winning all day because I'd have a warrior Minas Tirith supported by a men at arms or 2. So I'd have 2 or 3 dice to his 2 dice. So I'd win based off of fight value and kill him. But on the edges, where he could bring his numbers to bear and have my men at arms be up against like 6 goblins, eventually I'm not going to roll a 6. And with his 6 guys, he's going to roll a 6 to win. And then since he's trapped, now he's rolling 12 dice, needing, 1 5, because men at arms only defense 5. So his strength 3 goblins are wounding him on 5s. And then even against my warriors and Minas Tirith being defense 6, if he's got 12 dice again to wound, sometimes even more if you could get 4 guys in the fight and then have 4 supports. So now you're talking 16 dice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just, as much as I was able to kick the heck out of his middle line, like you're talking about, where you meet in the middle, his edges were just slowly crushing me. And that's what I think horde armies like Moria, like Goblin Town, that's what they're very good at. Or what another one that does that is the Lake Town as well.
Yeah.
Did you ever have trouble going up against the Goblin King? Did he ever like try to barge or like do a hurl with the goblin and try to get you displaced at all?
I tried to avoid the Goblin King as much as I could because what he did was run. He had Golem with the ring, so when he got into fights with the Goblin King, he put Golem in it too, so he's happy my fight value. And then the Goblin King was fight 6, so he was automatically winning on fight value, and I literally just tried to avoid it with my hero. But he didn't really do any of that like crazy stuff where he barged or threw anything. He did a couple of heroic combats to try and get to one of my heroes, and after like the 3rd or 4th turn, unfortunately I pinned my Boromir in the corner, and he rendered my Boromir to death.
No.
Yeah, that hurt. But
Sean Bean just always goes out first.
Well, I will say it did take him 3 turns to do it, because since I was playing with Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, he's got defense 7, and he rendered, so defense doesn't matter, but he's got 3 fate points, so that kind of helped me. I mean, he did two wounds like the first turn, and I faded out of them. And then the second turn, he did like 3 wounds, and I faded out of the 1 and took 2. And then the third turn, he finally killed him. So, but yeah, I didn't have to worry about him throwing any goblins. I just had to worry about him rending me to death.
The fate dice can be the greatest thing in the world, or they can just completely fail you at times.
Yeah.
We've played matches before where I had Dane surrounded by goblins, and I ended up getting a single wound on Dane with a goblin, and Josh just rolled nothing but 1s and 2s with his fate.
Right.
I hate
Fate
when that
1,
happens.
2. Come on, like
When a 5-point goblin uses all of your fate and gets the wound, there's an issue.
So I had a situation like that where Joe and I played, and it's actually a video on their channel. He was playing the Defenders of Helm's Deep Legendary Legion with their 30-plus inch bow or 30-inch bow range, and I was playing Dunlin with Isengard. And,
I remember that. I remember that video.
Yeah, so he sniped my Goroth and did 2 wounds, and I had to pass my 1 fate or he died, and I rolled a 2. Or no, I rolled a 1. I rolled a 1 with my face, so I had to burn all 3 points of might just to keep Goroth alive. It was definitely a situation where I was like, oh my gosh, really? You talk about a calamity of events going against you in one way?
And after that happens, that model just isn't going to pay for itself.
No, because I had to hide the heck out of him until I wanted to. I had a ways to go to get to him. So, all 3 of us are going to the Wolves and Shattered Shields. And you guys don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but are you guys looking at doing any sort of different army for the event, or are you still going to bring Moria and Dwarves respectively?
For Wolves and Shattered Shields, I've been toying with it repeatedly, and I probably am just going to end up bringing Moria for that one. But just because I don't think I can get enough Goblin Town together before then.
Right.
But I'm definitely gonna switch it up from how I've played it in the past. That's kind of why I like Moria, is it plays as a couple different army styles.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how this new army comp is gonna work.
Well, you're looking at doing the no name challenge.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with no named heroes for Moria, and and try to get those extra points in. So
yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Moria can do it too, because you don't really need any of the named heroes.
I mean, the only real 2 big heavy hitters that are the named ones is the Balrog and the Watcher in the water.
Yeah.
Because Groblog and Durzag and Ashrak, Durbers, all them, they're not really hard hitters. They're more of support.
Yeah.
And if you field enough, you really don't need the support.
The main detriment for your list that you usually run is that you have Druzag.
Yeah.
So you have no spiders because you can't have him in your army.
Yeah.
And the Watcher, who's a named character technically.
Well, yeah.
But Moria still has those unnamed monsters like the dragon.
Yeah.
That's a massive thing. It's not a named hero that you could bring, and the Cave Drake.
Yes, that's what I was about to say as well. I mean, you could swap him out for the Cave Drake. I've played with the Cave Drake before, and the Cave Drake moves 8 inches as well. And I mean, his ability to swallow an enemy model whole is amazing for multi-wound models and stuff.
I've looked at the Cave Drake. I actually don't own that model yet, but I've kind of really wanted to get it because with his swallow feature, like you said, it really is good at dealing with multi-wound models.
Mm-hmm.
And the Watcher kind of has the same thing with its drown ability, but again, there's not very many maps that I've played on that have had water features.
Right.
So you can't really rely on that.
I don't know if the Watcher in the water is considered a named model. That's actually...
I always, when we were building the list, I took it as one because it's the Watcher in the water.
Right. I guess that makes sense. Just like with the Wildman Oathmaker for Dunlin. He's considered a named hero, so you can't take multiple of them.
But then you have the King's Champion, who's not a named hero.
And you can take multiple of them, yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I was like, better safe than sorry. I counted it as not, but I mean, obviously we'd have to talk to the event coordinator about that one.
That would be, that's what I would say is probably the smartest thing, is just see what Robert says if you want to go the route. But if you need a cave drake, I have one. If you want to go that way, let me know. I will bring mine to let you borrow if you need it.
I would love to use it if I can fit him into the army comp. Then yeah, I would totally love to see his play style and figure out how it works. That'd be great.
I think the deadline is 2 weeks from this Friday, so you gotta get your list done soon.
I mean, put a list together, proxy him there against Josh, and maybe it'll kick Josh's butt, and maybe finally eat some dwarfs.
All right.
Well, he'd have to go up against mine, which is my Army of Thror and Dale.
Okay, that's what you're thinking about bringing.
Yeah, I don't have the time or the money to try and figure out a no-named list, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go for the fully painted bonus.
There you go.
And just go with my heavy hitters. I'm hoping like it'll counteract that free tournament point that you get with having a no-named list.
Right.
The fact that I have all these named heroes that hit really hard, hopefully I'll win more, so I can then counteract that loss of a point.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, I'm in the same boat. I'm going to be taking Lurtz's Scouts Legendary Legion. And I've got it with Lurtz, Maher, Ugluck, obviously, for my 3 named heroes, because you have to have Lurtz in it in order to take it. So I was like, well, I'm already losing out on that tournament point, so I'll just take all the named heroes that I can. And then I've got another captain in it, a couple banners, and then the whole army can move 8 inches, because that's the army bonus. Maher automatically upgrades everybody to Marauders, so the entire army is moving 8 inches. Then I took 2 drum.
Sorry, is it still worth a point per person to upgrade them to 8 inches?
Nope, they're free with the Legendary Legion.
That's very nice.
Yeah,
it is really nice.
Yeah, so my entire army moves 8 inches, including the heroes, and then I've got 2 drums in it, so I can I can sound the drums and move 11 inches, and then I've got a captain who can do heroic march, so I can add that on, and if I need to, I can move 14 inches in one turn. So
that's disgusting.
Yes, it is. It's very disgusting. So I don't even care about not having any cavalry, because they are Urukai, so they're all strength 4. So I don't care about if I'm going up against defense 6 armies. I will have a weakness going up against defense 7 or defense 8 armies, but since I am strength 4, I'd just be wounding those on straight 6s. No +1 to wound, unfortunately, and I'll just kind of take my my odds, because with what I have right now, I think I have 55 models in my list. So,
I wonder if Dane and Thorin the Third get released in time that I can take care of more. Email Rob real quick, like, hey, if these models come out, can I take this army instead?
Well, the models are out. You can pre-order them.
Yeah, they're for pre-order. Just hopefully that they ship in time.
Oh, I got you. Okay, you already bought them.
I can neither confirm nor deny. My wife watches the show.
Okay.
I won't say anything. You're good.
I don't know what you're talking about. Look, my boxes come in, and my wife's just like, "You bought more little miniature shit, didn't you?" I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." She's like, "It says Games Workshop on the return address label." I don't know what you're talking about. I plead the fifth.
That's why I'm happy when the mail comes while she's still at work, so I just hide it.
That's funny.
My wife was ticked the other day because I got a package in from Italy. It was another
Ashrak?
Ashrak came in, and I ordered him like back in December, and he got stuck in customs. I told her I was done ordering models for a while,
and then it comes in. Yeah,
I was like, look at the date. Look at the date.
Yeah, I had to do that too. I feel your pain. So go ahead. Sorry.
I have had that a few times where a package came in and she was home and she's like, "Did you buy more?" I'm like, "I ordered that like a month ago." It's not my fault that it got here in time.
Well, that's like Games Workshop right now. They're so far behind. Like, you're getting stuff that you ordered. Like you remember, Josh, you were commenting on my Numenor army that I was building, Last Alliance.
Yeah.
So I ordered excuse me. Yeah, keep burping up lunch, man. I ordered what's his name? Elendil and Isildur, because I'm going to do a conversion where I cut the head off of Aragorn Elisar and put Elendil's head so I can have a mounted Elendil. And I ordered it at like, I don't know, the end of February.
Yeah.
When I was painting those guys. And it just came in last week. So it's been like a month and a half. And my wife's just like, really? More little miniature shit? And I'm like, look, it was forever ago. It's taking forever to get there. She's like, uh-huh. That's what you always say. Like,
I know.
That's what's going on.
I ordered
now.
a few Iron Guard, and they shipped out in like the beginning of March, and then I got the approximate receive date. It's like May 24th.
What
I'm
the
like,
hell?
I'm like, why is that gonna take so long? And
Yeah, because that should be here in America.
yeah, it was I think I got these ones off eBay.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
That's just one of those things of like, just like I ordered it. She's gonna see the package next month. Like, what is this? Like, I ordered it before.
That's funny. So I think this is a good question because the three of us are all married. We all have wives. What does your spouse think about your nerdy little hobby?
I will quote my wife on this one and saying, I'm glad it makes you happy.
But
you gotta put a little bit of hurt on that, Josh.
No, she said with a smile on her face. I'm glad it makes you happy. She just did not say what she thinks about it.
My wife's actually pretty cool with it. She's been helping me base models and paint up stuff. I actually got some Haradrim from Josh that I bought off of him, and she's been helping me paint up models too. So
what the hell? I need your wife. I won't help me do anything.
We're slowly.
I hear that a lot.
We're slowly.
She just walked in the room as I said that. Now I'm getting the stink eye.
We're slowly converting our wives because the other day we were hanging out and all four of us, and they actually took us to a dinner and a movie, which was the special Q&A 2020 version of Return of the King.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I remember seeing that, and I wanted to see it, but like the closest movie theater that was showing it was like in Pennsylvania or some crap, Tennessee.
Yeah, they surprised us with that little treat, and like they willingly got the tickets to go take us. So we're like, oh, look at that.
They bought dinner and everything. We got to see Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen,
Yeah.
Andy Serkis, and Peter Jackson were the three that were interviewed.
What the hell? We need to trade wives.
She's
She's walked away, so I'm safe. I can say that.
I'm attached to mine.
I tried to get mine to paint with me back when we were dating when I was in the military, and she did it like once, and then she's like, "I don't like the paint fumes," because back then I was painting with Textor's paints, which are for modeling. Because I grew up doing like model planes and model aircraft carriers and stuff from World War II, and so those are the paints I knew to get was Textor's, and they were much cheaper and still are than GW paints. Now I've changed to GW paints along with Textor's, but at that time that's all I used. And she's like, I don't like the smell, it's too powerful, it gives me a headache, which is true because they're oil-based paints. So if you spend 2 hours sitting there with your nose stuck to it, it will give you a headache.
Yeah,
but I mean, my wife, she's I don't know if you guys were paying attention, she was taking pictures for us throughout Great Battle Carolinas. She helps me out she's a huge help for that one because it took both my truck and her CRV to get all the boards and terrains that I own, along with all the other stuff like the speaker that I was using to speak into and the projector, my laptop, just all the stuff that I need for an event. It took 2 cars. So she helps me out with that.
We met her when we helped you unload your truck.
Yeah, that's right. My bad. That's right. Duh.
Yeah.
So
she did a great job with the photos, by the way. There was some great pictures and battle scenes.
yes.
Like there's one that I've got saved on my phone of just the final round when I'm going up against Moran and Orcs, and you just see the goblins trying to hold the line, and the troll just in the background wrecking things. And then on the very far side, you just see tentacles reaching around. It's perfect.
Well, I will definitely pass it on to her. She's always very helpful with that, and I'm trying to convince her to see if she'll come with us or come with me in May for of Wolves and Shattered Shields, maybe so she can be my quote unquote official photographer. I don't know if she really cares. She just enjoys getting out of the house for the weekend.
There you go.
I will say I left myself signed into YouTube on our TV. I got sidetracked, left it up, and I went and was working on some models, I think. And my wife came in and she started flipping through my YouTube channel, and she actually clicked on a Conquest Creations YouTube that actually discussed the like how to get into the game.
Yeah.
I looked over at her. I'm like, are you serious? She's like, I'm just curious. Okay. I'm like, do you want to play?
I wish I could convince mine to play. I feel like she might not do great at it because no offense to her mind doesn't think like, ours does, where we're thinking strategically. But I think she would have fun moving the little miniatures around, and I wouldn't care. I don't know if you probably haven't met them, but Dwayne and Laura Fleck are from out in Missouri, and they're a husband and wife, obviously. And Dwayne does all the painting because he loves to paint, and then Laura just plays with the models. So they go to events together, and all the models are painted by Dwayne, and Laura's just, playing with them. And I've told my wife, I was like, I will paint the models for you.
Like, honestly, that's my goals right there. If my wife keeps enjoying painting these models, she can paint goblins all day long, and I will take them to the tournament and just brag about my wife to people. Like, that
There you
is
go.
the goal.
It's always good to brag about.
I brag about mine, how she puts up with my nerdism. So,
my wife. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
My wife had never seen Lord of the Rings, had never done much of a nerd thing when I first met her. And it was actually a deal we made. She had to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy if I had to watch 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Twilight for a second.
No, that was her favorite series. I'm like, all right, if I watch this, you have to watch Lord of the Rings. I've slowly, over our 3 years of our relationship, I've slowly gotten her to be a nerd. She has her own Xbox now, and
I think that's hilarious. I actually love 50 Shades of Grey in that whole series, honestly. I mean, you can call me whatever you want, but I think it's really cool. I think it's a good series. I've not read the books, but I do enjoy the movies. She's yelling something in the background. I don't know if it's coming through the mic, but I can hear her yelling. I don't know what she's saying.
I heard something. I didn't hear what it said.
I don't know. She's just being a smart ass. That's what they're there for.
Better than being a dumb one.
That's true. Well, I think it's funny because, like I said, I had brought 2 vehicles worth of stuff just to put on this event. And when I got into it, I was like, I'm never going to build terrain. Don't worry. All this stuff will stay in a case. It'll be in the closet. Maybe I'll get a display case and put some in it. So now I currently am up to 2 different display cases, with each one having 5 shelves each, and they're both full. I have 2 of those little plastic 3-drawer organizing things that you can get from Walmart for $20, and those are full of models I haven't painted. I have 10 carrying cases in the closet. Those are the only things in the closet. And then I have an entire table full of the different terrain and boards I've built. And we were doing this, we were putting all this stuff in the car for, Great Battle Carolinas, and she turns to me and she goes, I remember when you told me you were never going to get into terrain, and now you have all this stuff. And I'm just like, the hobby expanded. What can I say? I had to grow. You got to let me spread my wings and fly.
Yeah, I used to have all mine in cardboard boxes, and then when me and Richie started really expanding on this and getting into the hobby, I'm like, well, things kept getting a little dented, dinged up and all like that. So
we used a lot of super glue.
Yeah, super glue. plastic, cement, and super glue ready on standby. But then I was like, I'm gonna take my models out of these boxes, put all these books I have no time to read into the boxes, and use my bookshelf to display my models.
There you go.
I got 2 white tables that are now holding the board I'm making, so eventually that'll become our game table. And it's like, she wasn't expecting this when she married me.
I think that's the same way because when my wife met, I met my wife in the military, and I was a skinnier man back then. I wasn't the 240-pound blob that I am now. I actually had some, straightness to my body and was in shape. And so I'm assuming that when she met me, she was like, "Oh, this guy's kind of, dirty looking because I wear glasses, but for the most part, probably cool." And then we start dating and get into it, and it's like, "Oh yeah, I love Lord of the Rings. I love Star Wars. I'm just this giant fucking nerd that's just kind of hiding. And but at the same time, I know sports and football. It's like I'm that amalgamation." And she's like, "I did not expect that at all from you." And now here we are, like 8 years later, and she's stuck with me.
Yeah. I love my wife to pieces because she has allowed me to have my entire own room in the house just for like Lord of the Rings stuff. I've bought like 4 toolboxes now that I can just put stuff in and get set up in. And she's known that I was a nerd from the start, but so was she. Like on our 3rd date, she showed me she had like corsets and swords in her trunk from doing the Virginia Renaissance Fair. So
yeah, well, the first time I ever met her was when you brought her to D&D.
yeah,
that's how I knew she was a nerd.
Yep.
I'm in that same boat. I have one of our house has 3 bedrooms, and the spare bedroom / den is kind of like my little hobby hole, and it's just full. She's got her desk and a couple of her certificates and awards from the military and from college, and then like her Harry Potter mat that she loves because she's a big Harry Potter nerd. But the rest of the room is all Lord of the Rings. It's all me. And then our downstairs living room is full of all the terrain because that's where I keep it. So I went from having one little like small area to now I've taken up like, I don't know, a 10th of the house with this stuff.
It just becomes house decoration at some point.
Yeah, pretty much. So speaking of wives, and we both said, I think all 3 of us have said this now. We buy these things and our wives are like, "What? You spent more money? How much money? What was your wife's like?" I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this because I know where I'm going with it, but I don't know how to exactly phrase it. What was your one purchase that made your wife go, "You spent how much on that?" Or "You spent what?" You know what I mean? Did you ever have one of those purchases that made your wife go like that?
I will say no because she doesn't know how much I've spent on things.
Okay, you take the 5th.
To be fair, if I ever need to, I know that she's gone to Torrid and spent over $400 in one trip, so I can, I can say this is my Torrid, okay?
So you get at least 400.
Yeah.
So with my wife, spoiler, like I got her a nice like rig for Christmas, like a nice computer setup, and so I ended up spending $130 on eBay for a Ashrak model, so I could have him for the 1,000-point tournament. And let me just say, I had to suck up to her big time. Like I paid for her getting her nails done and everything else for like the next month.
Oh man!
So I paid for that one.
Well, yeah, you said 140.
130, yeah.
130, okay, 130, $10 for one model though.
Yeah,
they skyrocket.
Moria has so many out-of-print models, and and you really need them to round out the army, depending on what you're gonna do. So sometimes you just got to pay through the nose and hope for the best.
Well, I mean, I've seen that honestly. Somebody put that up on one of the Facebook pages. Like, has this big line, half of it out of print. It's like, really? So, I mean, I do understand that it's a matter of spacing and everything, but still, I wish that they would keep not some, but just more of the models in print than they do. So,
I mean, even if they didn't do like the full models for keeping them in print, it would be really easy to convert regular goblins to black shields. I wish they would just sell the black shield parts so you can put them
Right.
on regular goblins or tweak them somehow.
That makes sense. Well, I think
But
the one good thing is that there's a lot of companies out there that do like secondhand small parts like that that you can just throw on really easily to get what you need, and a lot of times they're cheaper too.
Example is for my Iron Hills with swords. I told you I had a friend who does 3D sculpting.
Yeah.
I just had him help me sculpt the swords as a file, and I just used my resin printer just to print out the swords, and voila.
And
Well-
yeah, and that's another thing that's become big right now too is 3D printing, which is huge, and it just helps make the game better because of the fact that you can do things like that.
Yeah.
And like we met Rob last tournament too,
Yeah.
and I spent like $50 and bought a ton of scenery from him that was just overflowing from his
had
collection.
Scenery,
Yeah.
extra shields
Yeah.
for your because your Thranduil's Halls, you always wanted more shields for those.
Yeah. And they'll have Warrior shields, but I mean, they're still Evan shields. I don't think anybody's gonna kill.
No,
No.
they'll work. They'll work. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about like the Galadrim Warrior shields.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would look perfect on House Card. Actually, they probably look better because they'd kind of be like a little bit of a proxy, or conversion, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's a simple conversion you could do.
Yeah.
So you guys want to hear how much I spent on one of my purchases that made my wife go, "What the hell?"
Is your wife nearby?
Oh, she already
Like-
knows. She knows. This was a while ago. So I deployed in 2016 for the last half of the year, and during that time, we went into a tax-free zone. We also were in a combat zone. We got shot at a few times. That's not nothing to worry about. But long story short for that is we ended up having 6 months of no taxes on top of like family separation pay for being married, on top of hazardous duty pay, on top of combat zone pay, on top of your regular pay.
So you had all the money coming in.
I came back from deployment with like $15,000 in my pocket. So I started doing what any good nerd does and scoured eBay to find stuff that I wanted. Well, I found this lot, and it was going on a bid. My winning bid was $1,700.
Ooh.
Holy.
But the MSRP price for this stuff, and a lot of it was out of print, was $2,600.
So you got a good deal.
So as far as I'm concerned, I saved $900.
Yeah.
That's what my wife does when she comes from Torrid. Look how much I saved, like $300 today, but how much did you spend?
Well, I mean, I really wanted it because, so I spent $1,700, but Smaug was in it. And this was back when Smaug was only like $490. So if you take him out right there, I spent $1,200. And the rest of the things I got like a Mumok, the Escape from Goblin Town starter pack, 2 Mordor Trolls, the old metal, out of print at that time, Warg Attack, Fellowship of the Ring, Knights of Rivendell, Warriors of the Last Alliance, like 48 of those models, Heroes of the West, Clutches of Shelob, Thranduil, Alfred, Master of Lake Town, 48 Easterlings. I have a whole list sitting here in front of me because I actually had to break this down to justify it to my wife why I spent $1,700 on these models. But I mean, there's even more. I mean, it goes on and on. So the items I kept like $1,000 worth of stuff, including Smaug, of course. And then everything else that I didn't need, I sold back on eBay, and I sold that for $1,000. So of my $1,700 I spent, I really only spent $700. And of course, if you include Smaug in that, who's a $500 model, I really only spent $200. That's how I justified it in my mind. So, but I mean, you come back to deployment, you got $1,500. It's like, bam, $700. I mean, these things came in, and they were in boxes. The one was 24 inches by 24 inches by 12 inches by 24 inches by 18 inches. So huge ass box. And then the second one was like 24 by 24 by 24. So that's how big this order was. And it was so large that they could not leave it. I was living in an apartment. They couldn't leave it at the apartment because it had to be signed for. So I had to get my wife to go to FedEx and actually pick these boxes up, because even though we had just gotten back from deployment, we were already back underway for a two-week underway. And she went and got them. And she's like, "Oh, what's in these? They're so heavy. There's so much in it. Yada, yada, yada." I was like, "No, I'll show you. I was like, "You got to wait. You got to be patient." So she's sitting here thinking it's something really cool. I got something for our apartment. I got something for her because I've been gone. And then I come back and I start opening these boxes up. And I just start pulling out all these models. And I can just see the look on her face going from, "Oh, what is it?" to, "Really?" to, "Are you fucking serious?" And then she's like, "How much did you spend on this?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, just $1,700. And she's like, "1,700 what?" And she's like, "You know how many shoes I could buy with that?" I was like, "Well, you know what? You're not the one who went on deployment. I was." So that was my wife's biggest like, "What the hell" moment for me. But oh, good, she's outside. She can't hear me talking about it.
It's probably like Christmas opening up all those boxes and seeing all those models, though.
Oh, dude, it was amazing. I'm not even gonna lie, because again, that was at that point where I was in Virginia, so nobody there played. So all I did from December of 2014, when the last Hobbit came out, till June of 2017, when I mustered out and came back to North Carolina, was, like I said, I just clicked it and played them. So for me, the greatest fun I had at the hobby at that point was just assembling and painting them. And when I finally got to North Carolina and met folks that played, and I'm like, "Yeah, I've got this army and I've got that army and I've got this model," and they're all like, people, they'd be talking about like you were, like abstract, out of print, and I'd be like, "Oh, I've got that model." They'd be like, "What?" And then they'd say another model, like, "Oh, I got that model." And they're like, "How do you have all these models?" I was like, "Dude, I was in the military for 2.5 years. All I did was just go online and buy a $130 abstract, because what the hell? I mean, I'm going to get paid because I'm in the military. So.
Got the money to burn, why not?
Yeah. I mean, that was my hobby. Lonely, boring little me sitting at home painting. But yeah. So.
Is there a model that you still want to get that you haven't gotten yet, like that's on your list?
Dane.
Yeah, probably the new ones. Nothing from before, because so I can just tell you, I'm in my little nerd room. In my display cases in ascending order from top to bottom. On the left one, we have Rohan, Fiefdoms, Minas Tirith, Easterlings and Khan, Dunland. And then on the right one, I have Azog's Legion mixed with Azog's Hunters. It's mostly Azog's Hunters because I have like 35 Warg Riders. I know, ridiculously unnecessary amount, but hey, why not? Plus, I've got a few like ogres and some Gundabad trolls. And then I have elves, and then below that is I can't see it. I'm at a bad angle. I should know this. Oh yeah, Khazad-dûm and Iron Hills. And then below that is my Moria monsters with my Cave Drake and my Dragon and my Dweller in the Dark and my 4 Cave Trolls and 5 Isengard Mordor Trolls. And then below that is my Numenor and Corsairs. So, I mean, I've got almost every army I want to play, I have the models for at this point.
There you go. You've got the collection we dream of.
Well, I will say I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff. At one point, I literally could have built like a 700-point army for every army that was out there. But I had like 4 Moomoks at one point and a bunch of Harad and all kinds of stuff. But I turned the Moomoks into pieces for the Pelennor Fields board, and then sold off the rest of the Harad. And I don't know. At this point, it's less of what army am I building, and more of, well, what do I have to make like a really cool combo? Which is why I ran for a while, and then Fiefdom's gone to a Rohan trio.
Well, and it sounds like with the armies you play with, considering you like to play as the good guys a lot of times, you can do a lot more alliances and that kind of build, where I don't think Moria has a whole lot of convenient allies.
I don't even think they had any green allies, do they?
Oh, green allies, yeah.
So let me see. I got the book in front of me. Moria, the bow. Yeah, they don't have a single great ally. They've got a lot of convenient allies, but I think Goblin Town's convenient ally with them.
Yeah, and the only purpose you'd get from making Goblin Town with Moria is just the fact that you get the Scribe to boost your numbers even more. But I mean, I don't see that as a major buy-in to just pair them. At that point, you might as well just go with Moria.
Right, I agree. Yeah. I think Goblin Town by itself is good because the army bonus, being able to just have troops lead themselves without needing heroes, is very effective. Unfortunately, a lot of people just can't get that many goblins. I mean, look what you said. You're looking at doing it for 1,000 points, and you had to get like 100. You were just at like 135 models, and you were still had points to spend.
Exactly, and with Goblin Town, if you do pair them up with somebody, you're getting rid of the biggest advantage, which is numbers. Because say you pull out some goblins and you pair them with Moria and you throw in like a cave troll, that cave troll is worth 20 goblins.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge loss for Goblin Town.
Yeah.
But even your regular Moria goblins are better than Goblin Town goblins.
Well, yeah, because at least they can shield.
Yeah.
That's true. I would say, though, that the Goblin Town goblins make up for that with the fact that they can support each other without needing a spear. So you don't have to worry about having spear supports. You just know that if you've got 10 goblins, you can go with a 5 rank 2 deep set.
Yeah, that's true. I never really thought of that because I don't play with spear supports with Moria.
Yeah. So you said you use your goblins just to kind of hold the line. Do you do a lot of shielding then? Just kind of go into fights and shield with them to keep them alive?
All my goblins just sit up in the front and shield. I don't even try to fight. I just shield every single time.
Makes
and
sense.
then let my monsters do their work.
Yeah, I mean that kind of sounds like the right thing to do because you've got all those heavy hitters, and they're going to do more work on the edges where they can't get bogged down in the middle. So having your goblins just hold the center line, and I'm assuming you probably have a few like sitting in the back, so if one dies, you can fill in your gaps.
Exactly, and if you bring like a drum or something, it's good to have a few sitting in the back anyways, just to replace them if one of your drummers gets sniped out or something like that.
Right.
That's why I actually like bringing a few goblin archers, even though everybody hates them because they never hit anything.
Yeah.
Good cannon fodder.
Yeah.
And there is sometimes where they will actually hit something and it completely goes unexpected.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I could see you if you wanted to play Goblin Town, I could see allying Moria in, and it actually being a very good strategy. You could do something as simple as you take the Goblin King, obviously with Goblin Town, and then you take the Scribe. So you're going to lose a few numbers allying in Moria, but what you would ally in my opinion, is maybe some of those heavy hitters. That's where you go ahead and it's like, okay, I'll give up 20 goblins, but I'll take a cave troll. So let's give up 20 more and take a second cave troll. Because if you're looking at like 800 point event and you're talking about 115 goblins, so if you give up 40 goblins, you're down to like 60 models or 70 models. Well, that's kind of like where you're starting to lose those numbers and advantage. But if you've got the Scribe, you've got a good chance of being able to boost those numbers throughout the game. Plus, if you add a cave troll or two, you're going to be adding like some really heavy hitting power. So you're going to actually really be able to hit the edges. It's like what I talked about before, where I was winning in the middle all the time against the goblins, but they were rolling the corners in behind me. And once they got behind me, they crushed my army pretty easily. So now if you're talking about, okay, you don't really need 40 extra goblins on the edges not doing anything, throw a couple cave trolls in, one on either side. Now you're really crushing the edges faster.
Yeah, if I ever did pair Moria with Goblin Town, I would probably end up letting Moria take the lead, and bringing in the Scribe as a convenient ally. And what I would do is probably let Durzak be the leader of the army and bring in the spiders because they're a lot cheaper than the troll would be.
Yeah.
And if he enrage beast with them, no, they and channels it, it can be the same fight as a troll chieftain.
There you go. Yeah.
And that's for 20 points, having the same fight as a troll chieftain and hitting just about as hard as one isn't bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think Goblin Town. Yeah, so you'd actually probably have to bring in a captain as well, because the Goblin Scribe's only a minor hero, and you have to
Yeah.
have at least a hero of fortitude. So, but you could bring in a Goblin captain if you wanted to. I mean, Greena is actually a very good captain to bring in. He's a hero of fortitude. He's got 3 points of might, so you'd actually have an extra point of might running around there. And
Mhm.
12. I mean, goblins are cheap. They're 4 points apiece. So you're talking about a war band of 12 of them being 48 points. You're not even talking about 100 points with the guys you're allying in. Then you can add the Goblin Scribe at 50 with 6 more guys at 24 points. So for less than 150 points, you've got 12, 16, 18 more models and the ability
Yeah.
to bring in even more. So, I mean, it just depends on what you want to do with that. If you want to push more for a 50-50 split, if you want to just have the Goblin Scribe in with there so you can keep boosting your numbers throughout the game so you never have to worry about being quartered. So,
Well, one list we played with for a little bit was Goblin Town allied with Smaug.
Oh yeah,
ooh, okay.
did
Yeah, I think we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
because
where
that's originally what I was supposed to bring to the Battle of the Carolinas,
Mm-hmm.
but my
Smaug kept going out of stock.
Smog kept going out of stock, and then my wife originally said, "Yeah, just go ahead and buy the model, even if it's expensive." And then it kept going out of stock, kept going out of stock, and then she had the bright idea one day to look up what the price of Smog actually was. And she's like, no, not right now. We've got to get the house ready." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh." So
that's hilarious. She's like,
it,
oh, it
it
doesn't
was
matter how expensive it is.
there,
Oh, that's
but
funny. So,
I really like the idea of Goblin Town with Smog because I can boost the numbers that way. I can pin people down with a single 4-point goblin,
yep.
and then just let Smog rotisserie everybody.
Five getting in guys
Yeah,
as well.
I
but
mean, look at it. An 800-point event. You could get Smaug, and then just like I said, Greena and 12 goblins is 88 points. So you
yeah,
still have 12 points to spend. I don't know how you wouldn't be able to spend it anyway, but
yeah.
that's crazy.
But I like bringing Greena with the scribe because they have that switch ability with the whip.
Mm-hmm.
So if the scribe ever gets in a bad location, they can switch out.
Yeah.
Granted,
Well,
Greena's gonna die, but
I don't think I don't even think the scribe can move, can he? He's
uh,
The scribe has to be carried
Mhm.
if he moves willingly. Yeah,
and he's a heavy object, I think.
Yeah.
does he count as a heavy object?
yeah, you have to have two guys to move.
Oh, okay. So the switch will work on him then.
I think it's very good for you. The switch is very good for using with the Goblin King. I would say if you got like 1,000-point event, you could bring the Goblin King, and then he can lead 18 guys, and then you have 2 heroes of legend, so you could make the Goblin King your leader, and then just literally throw Smaug into everything. And who cares if Smaug gets wounded, which is going to be very hard to do in the first place because he's defense 9.
Well, and he's got 20 wounds, so yay, you took 5 wounds off of him. There's
Yeah.
still another 15. He still outranks the Belloc.
Exactly. So I mean, you wound the hell out of him all you want, but he's not your leader, so you can kind of keep the Goblin King. Maybe play him a little more relaxed. You're not trying to get him in there. You're not trying to force him into combat. And then you bring 18 extra goblins, and then why not put the scribe in there too if you can? So I think that would be really deadly. At 1,000 points, you'd have Smaug, Goblin King, Goblin Scribe. I mean, that's 880, and then between the two of them, you can max out your war bands with goblins and get pretty close to 1,000 points.
And originally, that's what I was planning on doing. I just didn't have the money to get it working, unfortunately.
I mean, I would have loaned you my Smaug. Unfortunately, he's not completed yet.
Well, it's understandable. I think he's the biggest model in the game.
Yeah, he's a monster to try and paint.
Yeah.
If not by base size, by the fact that he goes over the base size.
Yeah, the wings.
True. But yeah.
Is there an army that you just don't like to play as?
So up until this last event that I went to, Corsairs was an army. Because, like I said, I bought the models. I spent a lot of money on it, and we were doing it for Dan and Joe's YouTube channel that I'm part of, and a little less so now because I've got my own going. But we did the narrative scenarios, and the goal was to do the raiding of Pelargir and the battle of Pelargir narrative scenarios. Well, we did the raiding of Pelargir, and I'll try and leave a link to that in the cards as well here. We did that scenario, and it doesn't require as many Corsairs as the battle. Well, the Battle of Pelargir requires like 48 Corsairs. And you've got to have like 12 Reavers and like 12 Warriors and all kinds of stuff in there. So to create the Reavers, I bought 2 boxes of 24 Corsairs. And then, so those boxes of 24 come with 8 sword and shield, 8 spear, and 8 archers. Well, I clipped the swords off of the sword and shield guys, and then the shields off of some of the others, and kit bashed them together. They look pretty good until you look closely and see that the hands are backwards, where they were glued together. But to make just 4 of them is 1 box of warriors, because it takes 4. You have to clip 4 and then glue 4. So to get 12 of them, I had to get 3 boxes, and then after that you need, I think, 12 or 16 warriors with sword and shield, which means I'd have to buy at least 2 more boxes. And, a box of warriors is like $50. So at this point, I'm like well invested at almost $200 between those warriors. And then the arbalesters are stupidly expensive as well because they come in a blister pack of 3. So I spent a shit ton of money on these guys. Of course, this was back in 2020. When COVID was a thing, and I was working like 60 hours a week, so who the hell cared anyway? I had the money. And I bought all those guys, and I put them together, and we did the raiding of Pelargir, and we've just never done the Battle of Pelargir. And then I tried playing them, and so I've already got this kind of prejudice against them because I spent so much money on them. And then I tried playing them against Joe in several practice games, and in all the practice games, I was getting curb stomped. I almost took them to the Dry Falls Auroros escalation event because they scale well. I mean, when you're doing an escalation event, you kind of want cheaper models and cheaper heroes so you can really boost your numbers from 450 to 600, 600 to 750, or 725, whatever it was, and then to 828. And but I just kept getting curb stomped in all my practice games, and up until that event in Fayetteville, I had not won a single game with them. Well, that's not true. I won 1 practice game against Joe when he was playing with Dennis Unharo, and that's only just because of the fact that I outnumbered him so badly at 450 points. So they're still not my favorite army to play because they don't really match my style. Like I said, I'm more of a shield wall, kick each other in the shins type, or all mounted with Rohan. I really like playing those 2 styles. But Corsairs are just so tactically savvy. You have to do everything exactly right with them. And if you do it, they're very effective. But if you make a mistake or something like that, they're not very forgiving.
Yeah, there's with me, it's I often find that like those last few games where I played Isengard, I played Barad-dûr. I don't know if it's evil versus evil or if it's the fact that I'm just not an evil kind of player.
Yeah.
That I just showed Richie on my computer. I have Word documents for all my lists. I have 3 evil armies, and then I have like 12 good armies.
Yeah.
So, like, I always come back to the dwarves because I like the play style, and it fits me better, and it just feels right.
See, I find that evil armies, though, are more forgiving because they have that higher model count. That if you lose a model or 2, it's no big deal. you can just recover easily. But if you're playing as, Palace Guard from Thranduil's Halls or Iron Hills, and you have a misplay or you're out of place and someone takes advantage of that, it's harder to come back from it because you don't have the numbers or mobility, or there's always something you're shy of.
I mean, that's the feeling you should have from the books.
Yeah.
So
I think good armies, they're a lot more elite friendly than evil armies. I mean, a lot of evil armies, look at my display cases. I went over what I had in there. Easterling Khan, that's evil, but they're men. Dunlin, but they're men. Then the Corsairs, but they're men. The only evil thing I had in there was evil that's not men is the Warbriders and then the Trolls and stuff like that I listed out, the monsters. I have a hard time painting like Urukai and Orcs. I like bright colors. I like shiny colors. I mean, Easterlings and Fiefdoms were the two armies that got me back in the game. And Fiefdoms because they're blue and silver. And then Easterlings are their red and gold. So they're very shiny, bright colors. And then when I painted my Khan, if you look at them, they're a lot of red and black. But I have a nice metallic black color that I use that kind of makes them sparkle and pop a little bit. And I didn't do them all red. I did a lot of them purple. So I've got red for what they're supposed to be, and then purple because that's my wife's favorite color. So, let's put some purple in there. Why not? And then when I did the Dunlin guys, again, they're men. So I did blue. I used a lot of blue on them. And it's just evil models like orcs and Urukai, goblins. They're just very, very dark colors. I don't mind painting the Uruks so much because their skin tone is more red. Or at least that's how I have them. But goblins are black, and for the most part, they wear black clothing and black armor. So they're just very muted colors, and I just kind of like those bright blues and reds and purples and stuff like that. Rohan's a pain in the butt to paint as well, in my opinion, because all that green and brown is just like, ugh. Looks like a turd.
Yeah. Honestly, some of the best looking models that I have from Thranduil's Halls, where Josh had helped me paint them, because we found like this metallic gold that just glimmers.
You want to talk about one of my worst memories? I remember that now. It's freaking having the speed paint.
Thranduil's Halls.
Speed paint Thranduil's Halls and Iron Hills in a week.
Yeah.
Just sitting here every day after work, just like spending 2 hours just rush painting everything.
But the Thranduil's Halls looked amazing. Their capes look like liquid gold, and it looks like something an elf should wear.
There you go. See, and that's why I like. That's why I think I'm more attracted to good armies than evil. It's because of stuff like that.
I feel like to bring life to some of the evil figures and models, they need a little bit more work. Like you can get green stuff and put armor on a troll, or put little skulls on the back of a goblin or something like that, or
something to make them unique.
Yeah,
Right.
they need a little more love. They're too cookie cutter.
Yeah. Well, and see, I think that's kind of why I haven't really minded doing these Urukai, is because of the fact that, like I said, I was able to add a little bit different color to them. Or the Dunlin, I changed their color from just, and I think in the pictures it's just kind of like a muted red with their armor. And I was like, this is my army. I'm going to paint it how I want it to be. And I added, the blue. So on the table, it looks really, really good.
Yeah.
I think it's Conquest Creations on YouTube. He did his Isengard army with green and purple.
Interesting.
It doesn't sound like it'd be good, but when you see the actual paint job he did, it came out really well.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny you should say that. Dwayne Fleck, who I mentioned earlier, he did his Easterling army in purple. So, and Laura plays the Easterlings, and they're purple. They're purple and gold.
Yeah, that's me and Richie discussed painting his Moria and like
in the purple. Yeah.
Yeah, it was multiple colors, just like trying to have some of them stand out a little more.
Yeah, some pop to it.
Well, not just that. There's like Ashrak, Durzag, and Grablog the wall, pushed out of Moria, left for dead.
Yeah.
And then Durzag is like the king of Moria and all
Durbers.
yeah, Durbers is the king of Moria. So I was thinking for like the outcasts, doing them like in a purple, and especially for the goblins that follow them, do them in like a purple color scheme for their armor and that.
Right.
And then for Durbers army, do them in the traditional red.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, kind of have different color schemes for the different ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can have like the different factions inside of Moria.
Yeah. Dan Keller actually does something similar with his Lake Town. So he's got the different heroes that lead, Bard. He plays with Bilbo, of course, and then like Hilda Bianca and Percy. So each one of them has their own color scheme. So like Bard is like straight from the book or the movies where he's wearing his blue cloak. And then Bilbo has his red coat on. So all the models in Bard's warband are blue. All the models in Bilbo's are red, and all the models in Percy's or Hilda's, they have brown, so they're wearing brown. So he does something like that where he color codes them, and it makes it easier for him to not only figure out what models are supposed to be in the army because they're a horde, but also figure out, who they belong to. It's just more. He looks thematic. So
I tried for my Iron Hills. The gold bands on the sides of their armor and the gold mohawk that they have on them. Like for the spearmen, I did both the pauldrons and the mohawk.
Nice.
For the crossbows, I did only the mohawk. For the Maddox, I did only the pauldrons. So like I did little thematic, little like this is your rank kind of thing.
I got what you're saying. Yeah, keep it together.
Instead of everyone just being one silver color.
Right. Yeah, see, I think that's probably part of the reason I also have issues with evil. Is like I agree with what you're saying, Richie, about them. They're a little more forgiving because a lot of evil armies are more horde-like. Unless you take them elite heavy. Like if you take Mordor, you can take Mordor elite heavy with a lot of Black Dur, trolls, and some of the stuff like that, and monsters. So you have a little model count. But you can also take it where you just take like Gothmog, the Witch King, maybe one or two named heroes like Gothmog's Enforcers or Zagdush or whatever. Then you can just spam orcs. So that's kind of a horde where, like you said, you lose a guy or two here or there. It's a little more forgiving because you got more models. Well, the reason I don't like playing evil models is because that's kind of the way they work. But you put all this time and energy into painting them, and then you just pick them up and put them in the dead pile.
Yeah. We got to think like one dwarf is worth 2 orcs, point wise.
There you go. How many goblins is it worth? Like you said earlier.
Almost 3.
Yeah, right about.
So.
And I get that because like what Joshua was saying with his Iron Hills, he's got different paint schemes based on rank and that kind of stuff. When you're a goblin in the army of Moria, you're not gonna have a rank. You're just there to get thrown at the wall until you die, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's kind of shown in the model. There's
Well, you gotta remember, Moria is one of the oldest. Is probably one of the oldest factions with the oldest models. They haven't changed since they first came out.
No, they really haven't. And that's between them and Numenor. They are the oldest models. That's why the Numenor scale's not right because they didn't get it right back then, and now everything's scaled appropriately, and their models are way small.
And I don't see them giving Moria like an update or changing out model designs or anything like that to try to give them more flavor because they are one of the oldest factions.
Yeah.
And they already do a good job of holding their own.
Yeah. I think the biggest upgrade that they got recently was just the plastic Belrond a few years ago. And it would be nice maybe in the future to see a expansion or a supplement where it's like, more goblins come and they take over, Khazad Dûm, and they take it from the dwarves. And maybe that's when we can get stuff that's out of print, like Azrak, like Warg Marauders, like the Cave Drake and the Dragon, I think. Well, I know the Dragon's out of print right now. I don't know about the Cave Drake. But stuff like that's out of print, I think it'd be great to be able to see those come back and have a supplement to provide them.
Well, here's an interesting thought. Azog during his time in Moria, before he lost his hand. That'd be an interesting little Moria kind of. expansion.
I'd even go so far to say if they wanted to like split Moria up and do like an outcast version of it versus the actual King of Moria, and then that way they could have a convenient ally.
Yeah.
Or
There you go.
historical ally.
Yeah, or historical ally.
That's one thing that evil armies suffer for is not historical allies.
Yeah, they really don't have a lot. I don't. Isengard isn't even historical allies with Mordor. I don't think. I think they're just convenient.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Well, the only time that they actually teamed up in the books was when Ugluk's scouts were on their way back with Merry and Pippin.
Yeah.
That's the only time they actually interacted.
Yep, and that's when Grisnak and Snagga are there.
That's already covered in the Legendary Legion for Ugluk.
Yeah. I see why they would do that, man.
I think it's funny because here I am. I'm looking at the Legendary Legions right now, and Goblin King, or not Legendary Legions. I'm sorry, the Allies Matrix. Goblin King, not Goblin King. Wow, Goblin Town, Isengard, Moria, Sharky's Rogues, the Trolls, which I mean they're not really an army, but the Trolls, Angmar, who's this? The Dark Denzians of Mirkwood. None of them have green allies. They're all convenient or impossible. So it would be nice to maybe see something where they can come out with a supplement that maybe gives a couple more, just like you said, where they can pick up a few guys with some more.
I think Mordor is the only ones they have are the Battle of Pelennor Field guys. So you have Harad and Easterlings.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Let me check. Mordor. Yeah, Easterlings. Oh, I've never thought about that. Easterlings and the Serpent Horde. And I mean, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I would like to see if they could do like a Dozag. Dozag would have to be like the leader of your army, but then you could be like convenient allies with denizens of Mirkwood.
You mean Gerbers?
Yeah. No, Dozag's one that brings.
Okay, yeah, you're talking about that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah.
Yeah, if you keep Dozag as the leader of your army, then you can be like convenient allies with Mirkwood since he brings the spiders and wargs anyways.
That'd be cool.
And then, that would be cool. I'd make that historical because why not? Because he's
he was banished and then he survived by making friends with bats and then spiders and wargs.
Just like Ashrak's Spiderkin. So
yeah. I mean, the model I've got for him, he's literally got spiders crawling all over him, and when you do a wound to him,
and the bats weren't. That's Ashrak.
Yeah, when you do a wound to him, he paralyzes you from the venom.
Yeah, there you go.
So.
But yeah, that'd be interesting. I would like to see something like that, personally.
I think it would just add more flavor to the game, and that's all we ever want as players.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Customizability.
Yeah.
So, well, I have no more questions, guys. So unless you got anything else you want to ask me or talk about, I'll leave that to y'all.
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
You guys have any shout outs to anybody you want to give?
Just my loving wife, who I love so much.
Don't forget the credit card statement.
There you go. You're just gonna be like, hey, look, I got something for you. Pull up this video. Fast forward to the last 20 seconds. Here you go, loving wife.
Just don't watch the rest of it.
Especially the part where we talked about cost. You don't want to know.
Yeah.
For some reason, my TV cuts out right in that part.
Well, guys, I appreciate y'all taking the time out of your day. We've been at this for a while now, so
almost 4 hours.
Yeah, 3.5 hours according to my report. I may cut this into 2 videos. There you go. I got my week's worth of videos covered in 1 day. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys taking time. It's great to do these connections where you can talk about stuff and just build your community, like you guys said. And welcome to the community, since y'all are still newish.
And like you said, when you lived in Virginia, there was just no one to play. Like that was our thing. Was
we couldn't find anybody either.
We're cool here, and I think I'd mentioned to you before. Like I joined the Facebook group for Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
I joined the Richmond one, which is I finally heard about the Dry Falls. Yep. That one popped up. But before that, I had checked with 4 or 5 different hobby shops around me. and they had stopped selling their Lord of the Rings stuff, and they had no more groups coming together.
It was all 40K.
Yeah, everything was 40K and Age of Sigmar and all that. So
Yeah, that's kind of one of the sad things is they've slowly worked that out of. They slowly worked it out, and there's just not as many people, not as many GWs selling the models now, if at all.
Hmm.
So. But
Well, look forward to seeing you at the next event.
look forward to beating you at the next event.
Hey, I mean, I got Defense 5, Defense 4 Uruk, so I mean, your Strength 4 Iron Hills are going to just break through them.
I'm just gonna let you two duke it out. I'll fight somebody else.
There you go. But,
See if we can find Young.
there you
He'll
go.
be
He will be at Carolina, or not Carolina, Ringo South, so maybe you'll get that rematch again that you're hoping for there, Richie.
All right, I'll keep an eye out for it.
There you go. But yeah, once again, thanks guys. Thanks to all the viewers and subscribers. Please like, share, subscribe. It helps me out. Helps me beat that analytics for YouTube and get those videos out there. But until then, enjoy your hobby. Enjoy Tolkien and all its Enjoy Tolkien in all its extremities, and take care.